values of faith and confidence in me. You know, she said, there's always a way. And it then meant that through my life, I've been unapologetic about possibilities. I felt comfortable in my own skin, and I have not needed anybody to validate me. And with that, I decided that I would be a woman of worth. But in my Igbo culture at the time, there was a culture around son preference, which meant in their eyes, I was not preferred for being a girl. I made up my mind to excel, and I worked hard and became a doctor. And guess what? When it was time to get married, my extended family and the community demanded a bride price or a dowry from my in-laws. That was almost extortionate. But my father said, my daughter is priceless, and you cannot pay enough for her, ever. Today, that same community has given me the honorific titles of Ada Ejiagamba, a daughter who represents us in foreign lands. They've given me another honorific title, Odo Abia, the brilliant and shining ornament of Abia. I was propelled into the work of women's human rights because I came across a harmful traditional practice that imposed a moral burden upon me. A very young friend lost her husband, and upon going on a condolence visit, the word that best describes her is unrecognizable. She had been made to stay unkempt, hair uncombed, body unwashed. And that was part of widowhood practice imposed on her at a time when she needed love and care and comfort from those around her. And then I discovered that there were even other practices where widows were being forced to lie in state with their deceased husbands, forced to drink the water in which their bodies had been washed. And here was a young widow. And then I discovered that there are even child widows in the context of conflict. Child widows? Yes, on account of a practice of child marriage. But child marriage, of course, must be called what it is. It is rape. How can a 9-year-old girl give consent? It is also rape of her future and her mental health. And these young girls, on account of the Boko Haram conflict, I had a child widow say to us, I was married 3 times. First to my peacetime husband and twice to my Boko Haram abductors. I had a child for the first husband. He died, and they forced me to marry another Boko Haram captor. And we had 2 children, a child bearing children, and those children, upon return to their families, being called bad blood on account of the blood of Boko Haram running in their veins, stigmatized. And in the context of COVID-19, we had yet another cohort of COVID-19 widows. We all know about the exponential rise of domestic violence in the context of COVID-19, for which the Secretary General of the United Nations called for a ceasefire behind the closed doors of homes, locked down, affecting their economy, locked in and locked out of faith and family. The type of violence that I have described is not limited to Nigeria, where I'm from. It's a global problem. WHO has said 1 in 3 women and girls have suffered one form of violence or the other. Therefore, not only is it a public health issue, it's a human rights issue of pandemic proportions, which is why in the context of COVID-19, we called it a pandemic within a pandemic. And the work around widows, around women who've been violated. It took us 6 years in Nigeria to get a state law passed. It took us 14 years to get a national Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act passed. And riding on the wings of that hope, I'm now a co-founder of the Every Woman Treaty, a coalition of courageous activists advocating for a global treaty to end all forms of violence against women and girls. 100% preventable, but it requires courage. In some cases, human rights defenders' lives have been threatened. The Every Woman Treaty, the global treaty to end violence against women and girls, has proven interventions. We call it the whole hand framework. The first thing is legal reform. Yes, laws in and of themselves do not stop violence, but without laws, where can we look to bring perpetrators to book? We must have training and accountability of doctors like myself, magistrates, police, those first responders to violence. We must have services. Women and girls who are violated need a toll-free line. They need safe spaces. They need support through skills. We must have prevention education for boys and girls to respect one another. Prevention is better than cure. But all of these cannot happen unless and until we have dedicated, ring-fenced funding to carry out these interventions. It is a crying shame that the entire package of development funding to prevent violence against women and girls is only 11 cents per female per year. The palm represents data and monitoring. We need to be able to monitor how far or fast the needle is moving. So, global solution, global solidarity, that's what we need from you. It's quite simple. Each one of you listening to me today can be an advocate, an ambassador for a global treaty to end all forms of violence against women and girls. Go to the website, everywoman.org, sign the People's Treaty. Call on your governments to make that pinnacle of commitments in order for us to have a treaty to end violence against women and girls. Elbows locked. My elbow locked on one side, the other elbow locked on the other side. We form that impenetrable and formidable wall of solidarity. Thank you for listening.